In the past, Mum Tracy has avoided weighing 7-year-old Libby. Now, like the rest of our parents, she may have to face some hard facts.
54.2 kilograms.
For a girl of Libby's age, you'd expect a healthy body fat percentage. We might be looking in the region of, say, 15% to 25%. Libby's body, actually about 52.1% of her body is fat.
54.2 kilograms, or 119 pounds, and 52.1% body fat at 7 years old. She weighs as much as an adult woman at 7. And if that wasn't bad enough, then understand that this Channel 4 documentary called Generation XXL was released in 2010, and childhood obesity has not gone down at all. In fact, the problem is a little bit worse than it was 10 to 15 years ago. The reason it keeps getting worse is because obese people aren't taking accountability for their actions and how that's led to their weight problems, especially when it comes to kids. Because they are so focused on denying their problems, they don't look for solutions, even when those solutions are obvious, well-known, and very easy to implement. Let's continue with Libby and her mom, Tracy.
At home, Libby is a notoriously fussy eater and exists mainly on a diet of carbohydrates.
She won't eat vegetables. She won't even try. She won't eat fruit. She won't eat beef. She won't try pork or lamb or anything like that at all.
That was Libby's mom speaking, and this is her on the right. Anytime I see people say that their kids won't eat healthier food, I think, she won't try beef, or she won't try beef when you make it. There's a difference between beef that is well seasoned and tender versus beef that is tough and tastes like rubber because it's been overcooked. There's a difference between someone who takes out the food thermometer to make sure the chicken is the right temperature before they pull it out of the oven, and the person who sets the timer for 30 minutes and you get what you get. These things determine your survivability on a healthy diet, because when you eat healthy, you can't hide bad cooking by covering it with calories. Did Tracy try seasoning any of this food before she fed it to her daughter? I can't imagine she knows much about that, because her idea of cooking appears to be microwaving some frozen dino nuggies and those happy-faced French fry things.
Tracy thinks Libby's attitude to eating has led to her daughter having digestive problems.
Any veg?
I'm going big on here.
Tracy is a single mum and works long hours as a full-time manager at the local medical centre.
It is really difficult. You're so pressured with time. I try and be patient with her, but obviously if you're working all day, you just want to get home.
Yeah, and those are great excuses. I'm sure she has very little time. However, making excuses doesn't lead to an actionable plan that solves your daughter's issues with obesity. It doesn't solve your issue with weight either. Keep in mind that Tracy is somewhere between 1 to 200 pounds overweight, and her focusing on what her daughter will or will not eat is a fantastic distraction from her own weight problem, as well as other problems like how poorly socialized her daughter is, which will make it hard to make friends. Check out this next scene where Libby eats at her friend Jessica's house.
Jessica's dad, Eric, is a chef and likes to cook fresh food from scratch. But Mum Tracy is dreading the meal. She knows how stubborn Libby can be about food.
Have some of this, Mummy.
Do you like it?
Oh, Libby, stop being silly. Jessica, pass me an egg. And we'll have some mayonnaise. And then Libby can have the egg and mayonnaise.
I am not. I don't like cake.
Just try it and eat it.
Most activities and events are centered around food, and Libby being such a picky eater is not only insulting to the people hosting them, but you can also see that her friend is kind of bothered that Libby is making such a scene about not wanting to eat the food. Now, Libby's behavior in this situation is not the end of the world. However, a pretty large portion of a kid's social time is at lunch, and if all she does is complain because she doesn't want to eat various foods, then she isn't going to be very likable because people generally don't like complainers. On top of that, Libby doesn't exercise or do any sports, so she's missing out on socializing from physical activity, which is one of the main ways that little kids make friends, and in the opinion of child psychologist Jean Piaget, it's how kids develop good morality. This will force her into solo activities like video games, and now you have a kid who grows up very behind socially, doesn't know how to make friends, and has a lowered sense of morality, which will make her unlikable, all from improper feeding and not exercising.
I think I've given in to her too much over the years with food, haven't I?
Can we go on a different subject?
I say she gets really annoyed as well if we carry on talking about food. So shall I get a bit stricter now then with food?
No, you're strict already.
Too many people think they need to use more force while managing others when they don't actually have to. You don't have to exercise more force to get your kid to eat. You just change your approach. Don't yell at a cat for scratching the sofa. Put a scratching post next to the sofa so they scratch that instead. Problem solved, no extra force necessary. So Tracy tries to get Libby to eat a cantaloupe in the earlier scene, yet she introduces it in the least palatable way. I know that's how the guy cut it, but you can still take the cantaloupe off the rind and cut it into cubes. It's like cutting the crust off a sandwich. That will make it way easier for a child to approach fruit because they don't have to deal with the hard texture of the rind. And if you really want to be strict about it, then when she's home, you can just say that she can't have her Dino Nuggies or her Happy Face fries until she eats one piece of cantaloupe. You do that a few times, her palate will adjust, and she will start to like it because it's more familiar. This stuff is not that complicated. You don't even really have to know how to cook to do it. Has Tracy put any investigation into behavioral management for her kid? Again, this documentary was published in 2010 and was filmed in 2008. I went to school to learn how to teach kids during that time period, and these strategies were definitely well known. Like I suggested earlier though, obese people tend to know very little about proper cooking, which is why they substitute seasoning, proper cooking time, and good flavor combinations with greasy, salty, and sugary foods. Their interest in food comes from the calorie count and not the actual flavor, texture, and complexity of it. That's a big reason why they feel like they need to eat a massive portion size to feel satisfied. On top of that, these people have no idea what they're feeding to their kids and will commonly say, well, he eats as much as anyone else does. I have no idea why my kid's overweight.
In Bradford, 7-year-old Lucas lives with his mum on the same street as his grandparents, his auntie and her children.
When it comes to Lucas and his cousins, it's a constant struggle for him. They can't understand why he can't eat as much as everybody else. They do everything the same together, they run around together, they play together, they eat more or less together. But Lucas is still the bigger one.
This is Lucas, who weighs 114 pounds or 51.8 kilograms and is 37.7% body fat. Holy crap, that's a lot of body fat. He's 7 just like Libby. However, in his case, at least he exercises quite a lot, which is probably why his body fat is a massive 14% less than hers, despite being close in weight and despite being pre-adolescent. But let's see why Lucas is having trouble with his weight. His grandparents live next door to him, and in this next scene, Lucas and his cousins are eating a meal that Granddad has made.
Tonight, Granddad's making tea.
You think it is fattening, but it's not fattening by far. As soon as it's ready, I'll put this red Leicester on top. Leave it in for 5 minutes. Take it out, serve it, and gone. Drop it.
It's not that fattening, as Granddad pours a mountain of calories onto it in the form of some sort of batter, and then tops it off with like 1,000 calories of sliced cheese. I think people really underestimate how many calories there are in cheese. There's probably like 80 to 90 of them in each one of those slices. As for the insides, I believe it's beef or meatballs. I don't really know what this dish is. It might be shepherd's pie, but basically it's like a lasagna with a bunch of very high-calorie things all mixed together. Now let's see the portion sizes.
No waste.
I don't need waste. I'm starving.
So what's it like, Lucas?
Come here.
They all like my cooking. Lucas loves it especially, yeah. He has to have the last little bit, you know.
Going back to what Lucas's mom said, compared to the other kids who, quote, eat as much as Lucas does, you can actually see that one of them is overweight, but he's 2 years older, so he probably thinned out a bit from growing, and the other one is younger, so it's much easier to monitor his food. Granddad also said that Lucas asked for the last little bit, so we know that Lucas's mom's testimony on Lucas eating the same as everyone else is false. And look at that portion size. Holy crap, that is a 7-year-old eating a meal that's bigger than what I would eat as an adult, especially if I'm trying to lose weight. That's not to say that you can't eat a good size amount of food and still be thin, but when the primary source of calories in your meal is oil and cheese, then a portion size like this for a single meal can easily be over 1,000 calories for a child. It's always fun to watch these people eating massive portion sizes and saying, gee, I have no idea how I got fat. I don't eat that much. It's my genetics. You need to stop consuming an entire day's worth of calories in a single meal. One of the ways you do that is by effectively memorizing the calorie counts of each item that you typically eat. If you're bodybuilding, then you'll need to memorize the protein content as well. But I very commonly see obese people having no idea what the calorie counts of their foods are, so they have no rough understanding of how much they should be eating, or things like what can be eaten in large quantities versus what needs to be eaten in small quantities. Also, once you're aware of what's in what, then you can start subbing out high-calorie foods for lower-calorie options. This TikTok channel called Aussie Fitness does a great job of creating decent-sized portions of food that are all around 500 calories each, and there are a lot of TikTok channels that are like it. In general, TikTok is a great place to learn how to cook because the videos are very short and to the point. And if that's still too complex for you and you really want to make it easy to learn how to cook, then start with programs like HelloFresh.
Do you think Lucas and his cousins ever kind of like come in and get bits from the cupboard when you don't know about it?
They do, yes, because the kids, yes they do, yeah. Where's my? I'll always buy myself a treat of some kind. Where's it gone? Don't know, Grandad.
Great. So you're teaching the kids to lie on a regular basis because you can't manage their junk food addiction. Lucas's mom can't be unaware of this. Certainly Granddad knows it. How are you supposed to fix the problem if you're lying to yourself about what your kid is doing? So in addition to Lucas eating massive portions for each meal, he's also eating snacks out of the pantry. And you might ask, why don't the parents just not buy these things? Well, one of the things I've noticed is that every parent on this show, except for one of them, has weight problems, and most of them are obese. They are likely keeping significant amounts of junk food because they want to eat the food themselves. Granddad admitted to that in that previous clip. They are probably also overusing junk food to manage their kids' behaviors instead of figuring out a management technique that doesn't get them addicted to sugar. Ultimately, this problem won't get solved until the parents take accountability and start losing weight themselves first. Then they'll better know how to manage their kids' behavior around food, which is something that Lucas's mom is not doing at all.
With so many family members to call on for food and snacks, it's hard for Mum Kelly to keep an eye on what Lucas is eating.
He can do stuff very slyly. He can go on to my sisters and say, "My mum ain't fed me." And she'll be like, "Kelly, have you fed him or not?"
Again, she clearly knows what's up, and her lack of management here is teaching her son how to lie and deceive people because he's addicted to food. More importantly, everything you do as a kid amplifies exponentially as you get older. So if you taught him how to lie because you were too lazy to learn how to manage his addiction at 7 years old, then by the time he's 15, 16, or 17, he's going to be pretty good at manipulating you into letting him do other bad things, if the behavior goes unchecked. Of course, that works in the opposite direction as well, and good things you teach your kids will also amplify, which is why it's so crucial that good habits are taught as early as possible. However, the problem here is that because these parents aren't healthy themselves, they have no idea how to properly lose weight. The best example of this from the documentary is Kelsey's mom, Melissa.
Because you see, I do try. That's half fat cheese, pasta's whole meal, and that's what we use all the time, so I can't really work out why we're that fat.
But when you're not here filming, we have a takeaway.
On a Wednesday.
That was hilarious. The kid just tells on her mom right away. For all the Americans, takeaway is like fast food or delivery. It's food that's not from a sit-down restaurant. Anyway, the mom Melissa says she eats takeaway once a week. However, later in the film, her daughter Kelsey tells on her yet again and said they used to eat it all the time before the documentary and only recently cut it down to once a week. Melissa actually shows one of the takeaway meals, and wow, that is huge. I mean, you can eat this stuff, but cut it in half. The picture quality here is bad, but keep in mind that there's bread under that meat, and she's eating it with sides too.
I kind of know it's my fault that she's big. She's got my genes, and we're not always perfect eaters. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's our metabolism.
You don't have to blame genetics if you learn how to portion your food properly. Another example of bad portioning was that part where she said, "I use half-fat cheese. I don't know why we're fat." Look at how much cheese her daughter Kelsey is dumping on the food. That's adding a ton of calories to the meal. She's using so much cheese that it probably overpowers all the other flavors in the food. I mean, unless her mom sucks at cooking and can't flavor things properly. However, in a properly seasoned meal, you could be using half to a third of that cheese to just give it a little accent. You can also get a finer cheese grater, so instead of those huge chunks, you get these little hairs, which will make it a lot easier to evenly spread the cheese over the meal without adding triple the calories. Going back to that TikTok channel from earlier, one of the ways he keeps these meals low calorie is by doing just a light glaze of the high calorie sauces that he's using. He doesn't just plop it on there and add 300 calories of condiments to the meal. If you have to dump your food into a bucket of mayonnaise or ranch dressing to make it taste good, it means that you aren't cooking it properly. If you flavored the food properly, then putting high-calorie sauces all over it will actually make the food taste worse. As for the other parts of Kelsey's meal, you have sauce, beef, and pasta. Those are all high-calorie items, and if you're trying to lose weight as a child, you need to have a portion size that is way smaller than that for a single meal. She's eating almost as much as her sister here, who is twice her size. That being said, Kelsey's mom, Melissa, has found her new weight loss program in the form of a shake diet. Here's her other daughter commenting on it.
But Kelsey's big sister Charlotte is sceptical about her mum's approach to weight loss.
All it is a tiny little sachet combined with water. She's not actually eating, she is drinking. There's obviously something wrong with that. It can't be healthy to not eat.
I mean, fasting is okay if it's done properly. However, this shake diet is not going to work. I wonder how many calories are in those shakes that she's consuming. Considering how these diets typically work, I doubt it's very many. So this is likely an anorexia diet, which means that she's under-eating severely with a massive 1,000 plus calorie deficit instead of a deficit of like 300 to 500 calories. I can tell that's what's happening because of the dramatic weight loss results that she reports in this next scene, and that's why I don't think this will work.
I've lost a stone in like a week, which is like, to me, that's phenomenal. And that just keeps me motivated because every day I get up and weigh myself, I've lost some more weight.
She lost 14 pounds, or 6.35 kilograms in 1 week. I know that she probably thinks that it's all fat that she's losing, but it's not. Most of that weight loss is coming from her intestines clearing out because she's not eating solid food. If you go to the bathroom and don't replace what you put in the toilet with new food, then you'll weigh less. That's why she's dropping so much weight so quickly. After the first week or two, that will stop, her progress will slow, and she will likely give up because she's unsatisfied with losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, which is normal, because she thinks she should be losing 14 pounds in a week. She's also weighing herself way too much. Weight will fluctuate all the time throughout the week, so you should never weigh yourself every day. Only weigh yourself once a week or once every 2 weeks. Otherwise, you might cause yourself to flip out because one day you drank a lot of water or had higher food volume and ended up weighing more the next day. One thing I haven't talked about on this channel is how to weigh yourself properly. A lot of people don't seem to know that the food and water that you consume throughout the day will make you heavier, so the worst time to weigh yourself is at night. When you do weigh yourself, it should be done in the morning, after you've gone to the bathroom, and before you eat or drink anything. Make sure the scale is on an even, hard surface, not carpet, and make sure that your weight is evenly distributed to all 4 corners of the scale. This way you won't demotivate yourself on accident from a higher number on the scale because you weighed yourself incorrectly. Last, eat lots of vegetables so that the fiber from them can move the food through your bowels consistently, and you don't weigh more because you're backed up. It's lack of information like this that destroys people's morale and gets them to quit their diets. Spoilers, Melissa's shake diet fails shortly after she started it. But honestly, the more I see, the more I realize that pretty much nobody knows anything about food. It's kind of sad. This school Lucas goes to makes a bunch of health claims about their menu.
We provide fruit every day, fresh vegetables. We always have salad on. A lot of children are into vegetables.
Yeah, fresh vegetables that look like they came out of a Green Giant can. Very healthy. Did the lunch ladies cut these green beans and carrots themselves? If they didn't, then it's not fresh. Anyway, let's move on to something that's less depressing. It turns out that I was right, and that girl Libby from the beginning wasn't eating the food because she didn't like her mom's cooking, not because she is a horrendously picky eater. Later in the show, Libby is being babysat while her mom is at work, and surprisingly, she eats all the food.
Tonight, Susanna's made chicken and vegetable curry.
Did you wipe your hands?
I've got my hands.
Sometimes Tracy says, you know, Libby doesn't like this or that, or like fish fingers and silly things, but when she comes here with kids, she eats everything. I don't ask them what would they like for dinner, I just cook, and either if I see they don't want to or something, they have no choice, they have to sit down and eat.
Granted, this isn't the healthiest version of curry. It looks like it came out of a box and she's using white rice. But despite that, at least Libby is now eating vegetables and trying different types of food. It's much better than frozen dino nuggies and french fries. This babysitter also knows how to manage kids as she's insistent that everyone eats, unlike Libby's mom, who constantly gives in when there's the slightest resistance.
What are you eating?
Curry.
What are you eating?
Curry.
Right, Missy Madam, you'll be eating curry when you go home next week.
I like it Susanna's way, not yours.
This is what I get everywhere she goes. I don't like it the way you do it.
You gotta love the honesty from kids. At least kids will actually tell you what's wrong. Fortunately, Libby's mom Tracy ends up taking the appropriate actions. She hires a personal trainer, she gets Libby's dad more involved in her life, and most importantly, Tracy joins a health group that teaches people how to cook and manage their weight.
Tracy and Libby have made some big changes. They now attend their local branch of MEND, a nutrition and exercise programme for overweight children.
It's all about sort of healthier eating and being more active, and it's working with Libby. She's trying fruits, she'll eat melon, mango, pear.
Very nice. It's always great to see people making a positive change, though it looks like she burnt these burger patties. She needs a lot more practice, but at least she's trying. I couldn't really find any published information on the participants in this documentary. However, I did find a post from someone who I believe is Tracy from a random forum commenting on the episode the day it aired. Supposedly, this documentary was filmed in 2008, and they didn't do an update on how well the children were doing, despite it being published 2 years after filming. Kind of disappointing, but Tracy says that Libby is doing well and eating more foods. It appears that Melissa, the Shake Mom, also commented on this forum saying that her daughter hasn't gained any weight in 2 years. I'm assuming that means that the number on the scale has stayed the same, which would mean that proportionally she lost weight because she grew. That's not to say that everyone had a happy ending though. There was also another kid that I didn't mention named Bethany. Her story didn't have much airtime, however, her mom was horrendous. They go to the doctor's office to have her weight checked, and the doctor is like, hey, Bethany's overweight, and her mom's like, I don't care.
There's no concerns, really. I'm happy with her size anyway, so it doesn't bother me.
And at the moment, Bethany's body mass index is 26.4. Can I ask, were you aware of that?
No.
You weren't? No. Does that come as a bit of a surprise?
No, not really.
No.
Yes, it does. You mightn't be bothered, but I am.
This mom was just horrible in every scene that she was in, saying that kids should be able to eat whatever junk they want, and even got mad at her daughter's school for implementing healthy eating programs.
Bethany's mum, Kelly, is one of the parents who's unhappy about the school's policy on healthy eating.
I don't agree with it. I think people should just eat what they want to eat. If it's going to make them happy, eat it.
Worst of all, she says that her overweight daughter is healthy.
Yes, she is big, but when you're big, you look cuddly, you look well, you look better. And that's the way I see Bethany. She looks well, she's got colour in her cheeks all the time. She wouldn't be Bethany if she wasn't big.
Naturally, her daughter Bethany failed to lose any weight or make any sort of health improvements by the end of the filming. Her mom said, well, we tried to have her eat healthy, but she didn't want to, so we gave up. Oddly enough, this mom was the thinnest one filmed. On the flip side, Lucas did end the documentary off on a better note because his mom started managing him.
I've made 2 small changes in Lucas's lifestyle, which I didn't think I'd need to. But one of the big main reasons is it was having seconds at dinner at school. So he's now gone on pack lunches, which obviously I can control what goes in there. And other than that, he's started a new sport, which is rugby, on top of his football as well.
Not only are his parents and his grandparents managing him better, but he wants to play soccer and realizes that he can't do that at his current weight, so it's great that he now has a goal. With that said, the most important thing people need to understand is that these changes are going to be very gradual and very slow. It's going to take years for most of these people to get down to a proper weight, not weeks or months. But since we're talking about kids, the most important lesson here is that you'll never actually get people to adopt behaviors that you don't embody yourself. People rarely listen to logic and form most of their opinions on emotion and past experiences, which is why you need to always model your behavior that you preach so people can understand its value on an emotional level and they can physically see its value through their experiences with you. Also, from the most practical standpoint, it's much easier to give people accurate advice when you've gone through the journey yourself. Anyway, thanks for watching, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.